Hey everybody, this is the BS Podcast Network. I'm Ben Dorst.
Steven Dominguez.
At least this show is better than pure BS.
What?
What
are you? I'm Batman.
Who are you?
My name is
Bond.
I'm
Batman.
Name's Bond.
James Bond.
I'm Batman.
Bond.
James Bond.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman. This is the Batman vs. James Bond show. The show covering everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. And now, here's your host, Brian Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. The name's Thomas, Brian Thomas, and I am your host. And this is the show where we discuss everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. It's great to be back. Happy post-Halloween, happy post-Day of the Dead. It's been quite an enjoyable week, As you can see, I'm still getting over a celebration. Yes, I did celebrate Halloween like most of you. I think everybody in almost every country does celebrate Halloween. I mean, some people, they don't want to, and that's cool. Me, on the other hand, it's not just Halloween for me on the day of October 31st. No, and it's not just Day of the Dead, as a matter of fact. It happens to be my birthday. Yes, I just celebrated a birthday the other day, hence why you're getting this episode just a little bit late. I won't go too much into it, and I won't even disclose my age, but I will say that, two characters made an appearance over the weekend. One happened to be something of what I'm wearing right now, if you couldn't see what I'm wearing by now, because you're listening to the audio format of this show, which is why I now encourage you to start. I'm back on video. I'm trying this out again. Hopefully this will come out better. Last time I did this, it was, it turns out that the video wasn't on the whole time, which it can be quite a problem if you're trying to do a video feed. So, yes, I am wearing the Bone Daddy costume from SPECTRE. Yes. And, I have my hat here. Let's, put this on, get the full effect here. Yeah, I kind of look like Odd Job in a way there too. And I'll show you the mask. I won't put it on there. Yes, there it is. The SPECTRE mask, the mask that I've been getting lots and lots of questions about. I did want to make sure I did put this out there. You can find that mask on eBay. Just to send me a message on social media, and, I can send you the direct link. There's a whole bunch of different retailers that sell it, but I found the lowest price, because in this day and age, we got to save a penny or two, right? So, yes, send me a private message and I will send that to you. So anyway, I hope you all have had a great week. I hope, the celebrations of Net Pie now come to an end. I'm still burning the candle on one other end, or however they say it. How do they say it in Batman Begins? Someone's been burning the candle a little bit longer. I forget how Rachel Dawes said in Batman Begins. But the point is, though, that I am here and we have a lot to talk about, but it's only about one certain subject. So if you've seen the teases that I've had out there, you'll understand that, there we go, fixing that up. That I've only been talking about a certain something for this last month. I've been hinting out around about this, saying, hey, you know what? I'm doing a review of something, and I really want to talk about this because the 1-year anniversary of this is about now, as a matter of fact. So what better time? Halloween. Hence why I'm wearing my Halloween costume again, because I'm still pumped about this because, it's been a year. I still have Halloween driving through my system right now. So if you haven't figured out what I'm about to talk about, well, I'll hang on for one more second, then you'll figure it out. So just a reminder, the Batman vs. James Bond show can be found on the BS Podcast Network. That is bspodcastnetwork.com. You can find my show and a whole bunch of other great shows on there. So now, and you can also find the YouTube, obviously just search on YouTube, Batman vs. James Bond show, and you'll find me on there. Anyway, so we have one subject on here to talk about today, whenever you decide to listen to this episode. It's a little movie, came out about a year ago, starred Daniel Craig, let's see who else was in there. Oh yeah, Christoph Waltz, he played a certain character in there too. You running out of ideas? Yes, I am talking about SPECTRE. Yes, I'm talking about SPECTRE. Can you believe it's been a year since this movie was released? Now, I know for some of you, it came out around Halloween. You were able to get the early premiere. For me, it was around November 6th, I think it was, November 7th, give or take. But hey, we're here now. I've been wanting to talk about this movie a lot because ever since this podcast came out, I'm like, man, of all things, I wish I could have done a review, like I did with Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, the week of that coming out. I wasn't able to do that because, of course, this podcast didn't come out until, I guess, February, give or take. So we are here tonight to talk about Spectre. If you are a Batman fan, I apologize, but if you're a Batman fan and you're listening to this show, chances are that you do like James Bond. So, and if you are a James Bond fan and this is not your favorite Bond movie, well, I might be able to empathize with you, if you will. There might be, I have some thoughts on this I definitely want to get out there. And I want your feedback also. So, as always, leave feedback for me all the time. Comment on social media at Batman vs. Bond. iTunes and Spreaker, you can comment on there. I'd rather be 5 stars, but, I very much appreciate it. Excuse me. Anyway, so let's start off with Spectre. I'm pretty much what I'm going to be doing, guys, is just about a little over an hour long highlights of this, like what my favorite parts were, the things that I didn't like. Yes, there's actually things I didn't like about Spectre. So let's start off with this. Let's start off with the synopsis, and let's go with this. A cryptic message from Bond's past sends him on a trail to uncover a sinister organization while in battles political forces to keep the Secret Service alive. Bond peels back the layers of deceit, to reveal the terrible truth behind Spectre. Okay, and it stars Daniel Craig as James Bond, Christoph Waltz as... I'll leave that as Franz Obenhauser for now. Leah Seydoux as Madeline Swan, Ben Whishaw returns as Q, Naomi Harris returns as Moneypenny, Ralph Fiennes is now the new M, and Andrew Scott as Max Denby. Probably a few of them that I left out there. Oh yeah, Monica Bellucci, she was... Sciarra in there. Yes, she was definitely, we can't leave her out. We will be talking about her. So let's start off with the highlights. I'm just going to pretty much go through the film. I will disclose right now the imaginary spoiler. There it is. That's what my hand's doing. It's imaginary spoiler. We're going to make sure that that's there. For those of you that haven't seen the movie, pause this episode right now because I'm going to be doing a lot of spoilers. Okay. So let's go right into it. How it was very difficult. Let me just say this, that to make a Bond movie, or it is, especially nowadays, after we've had some great last ones in the last, I'd say, 10 years now. We've had Casino Royale, hint, that review might be coming in the next week or two also. 10 years of that, as a matter of fact. That came out in 2006, which I think we can all agree is probably in the top 2 of best Bond movies ever. I know when I did the James Bond special about a month or so ago, it was between that and On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and I agree they're both excellent Bond movies. I like oh man, I almost said around Her Majesty's Secret Service. No, I like Casino Royale a lot better. I truly do. I think there's maybe one thing on there that I don't like in there, but I'll disclose that for another time. But what I'm going with is that we have it raised such a high bar for what a Bond movie can be and what it should be. Maybe some people didn't like the fact that, there weren't gadgets in there. Maybe they didn't like that there wasn't a Moneypenny or a Q in there, or just that, Bond didn't, wasn't quite Bond yet, or something like that. We saw the return of that in Skyfall, though. We saw that, director Sam Mendes, the director who directed Spectre, he actually did return for this, that he decided, okay, well, I'm going to set up Bond even more. I'm going to bring in a new M. I'm going to kind of pass the torch from Judi Dench, as M. And then I'm going to have Ralph Fiennes as Garrett Mallory be the new M. So, I think that set that was an interesting transition there. Then you have a younger Q. You're setting up a new Q there. You're setting up a new Moneypenny that we've never seen before. And now it's like all the classic elements of James Bond are back. He's now saying the name's Bond, James Bond. He still orders his martini. He didn't say shaken, not stirred. That's okay. But my point is that Skyfall, once again, even set, it stuck up there with the bar. Some might say that Skyfall, it wasn't as good as Casino Royale. I can see your arguments with that. It depends on my mood which one I like better, Casino Royale or Spectre. Oh, wow. It depends on which mood, excuse me, if I like Casino Royale or Skyfall better. I will say that, Spectre, in my mind, I'll tell you right off the bat that I didn't like it as much as either of those two. That does not mean that it's good, okay? There are some elements that I did like that they brought back. Sam Mendes also did that with Spectre. Man, see, there's too many S's with these last 2 Bond movies. But let me say this, that it was a welcome return for the gun barrel to come back. Yeah. When I remember when I went to see this the night it was released. What they do here in the States is they release a movie early on the Thursday, right before the Friday, the Thursday night, and you can go see an evening showing of it. I went to see it with my dad, and we had a blast. We truly did. Especially when we heard this gun barrel. You see the MGM logo, you see the Columbia logo, and all of a sudden you hear dun 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 dun, and I'm like, yes, I did. I know I did something just like that. I didn't scream out loud, but I knew I did the fist pump. I was like clapping inside my head and stuff like that. I was cheering. I was like, thank you, Sam Mendes, for bringing back the gun barrel. I know they had the gun barrel at the very end of Quantum of Solace. I know they had it in Skyfall, but at the same time, I'm like, it feels better to have it in the beginning of the movie. We can talk about the gun barrel all day, but I like the style of the gun barrel, if that makes sense. I love the music that they play with us. I love how Thomas Newman used the arrangement from, it sounded like he did an arrangement of David Arnold's James Bond theme. The name's Bond, James Bond. And, it worked perfectly how they faded it out. And then they said, all of a sudden, it takes you right into the movie. The dead are alive. I love that. I love it. Just that sharp bass sound that they do. Doom, doom. Doom. And then we're right in Mexico City. We're right in the Day of the Dead. Everybody's wearing a costume, probably better than what I'm wearing right now. Let's talk about this pre-title sequence. This pre-title sequence I will say it's probably one of my favorite pre-title sequences. I'm not saying that because, I've had a year to let this movie settle in because I haven't really seen it since I think it was released on Blu-ray, HD copy back in, I guess it was spring, maybe February or March. So I haven't, I made sure that I didn't want to watch it because I know that, when, at least for me, when I see a movie, I get really excited as I am right about now. And I'm like, oh, this is like the best movie. And times have told me with this or shown me with this that, sometimes you have to let a movie settle in. You kind of have to digest it. And, with this movie, I feel like I've digested. I'm still on a high from it in a way, saying, okay, this might be this is a great throwback James Bond movie, if anything. It had some new elements that I liked, some things that I didn't like. But I can argue that the pre-title sequence is one of the best pre-title sequences ever in a James Bond movie. Everything from the continuous track shot, walking through the Day of the Dead, all the extras that they had in the Day of the Dead. I think if there's one thing to be said about Sam Mendes, I loved how he did this. I know that he had over hundreds and hundreds of extras. I don't know the exact amount. But I can say that, I remember the making of this and how they did this. The chopper chase or the chopper fight, if you will. They decided that they wanted to go with they hired a guy that he's a stunt pilot for Red Bull helicopters, and he does the barrel rolls with the helicopters. Bond's in there fighting with Sierra, a guy from SPECTRE, who we find out end up being SPECTRE. And, it's just everything about this. And we've had helicopter fights before. We've had helicopter chases. We've had, the one that always sticks in my mind is because it's one of my favorites also and ends up with a helicopter is, oh my God, For Your Eyes Only. Yes, For Your Eyes Only. And it also had Blofeld in there, and it's being controlled by Blofeld on there. And, Bond has no control of the helicopter, but at the same time, they're different. And that's why I was worried about this when I saw this in the trailer. I was like, oh, you have a helicopter. We've seen that before. But what I always love about the producers or the writers, especially the producers, is that they always find a way to outdo themselves. They try something different. They always have a way to, do something shock and awe. We've had all different kinds. We've had The Spy Who Loved Me, which was a ski chase. Bond he skis right off a mountain clip and then opens the parachute. I love that. That's still one of my favorites. This is up there with being that good. I can honestly say when I go back and watch this in 10 years, if we do a 10-year anniversary of this to see how it holds up, I can say I will be surprised if this doesn't end up being in my top 5 pre-title sequences. So, I can, talk about the pre-title sequence all day, and I can say, like I said, I love it. So let's move on here. Let's talk about the song Sam Smith, The Writing's on the Wall, written by him. Sam Mendes, there are two Sams here, mind you. Sam Mendes brought Sam Smith on to write this song. I think he actually gave him the script, and it's something about this song. What we say, we're comparing, it's hard not to make those comparisons, especially with a Bond theme song. Once again, the bar has been set so high by, say, Shirley Bassey with her multiple renditions of different Bond themes. The Chris Cornell, You Know My Name, a totally different song, but such a great, great song. With Adele's Skyfall, I mean, it's an Oscar winning, and rightfully so, because it's that good. I can listen to it on the radio. I'll put it on my iPhone, and I'll listen to it all the time, and it just holds up. When I first heard the Sam Smith song when it came out in over a year ago now, I was like, this is different. It's got to sink in though. But I went back and I kept listening to the lyrics, and especially when you listen to the lyrics when you're going through it works really especially well when you throw in Daniel Kleinman's opening. Now, Daniel Kleinman, for those of you that don't know, he's been doing the Bond openings since 1995 with GoldenEye. He did them for all the Pierce movies. He did them for almost all the Daniel Craig movies, aside from Quantum of Solace. When he came back with Skyfall, he knocked it out of the park. With this one, he knocked it out of the park. It's something about like a song when it works well, when you have a visual. In this case, you have a shirtless Bond with some beautiful Bond beauties. There's the octopus. The octopus in here plays so well, especially whenever we think Spectre, if you're a Bond fan. We think of that octopus. We think of the old classic octopus ring. We think of the new octopus ring that has the black marking on there. It's up the tentacles on there. And, how Kleinman did this was just really well. I mean, he's wrapping a octopus's, tentacles over a naked woman. I'm like, wow. He's doing that over the Walther PPK. He fits, I like what he's been doing in the last couple movies is he actually shows Daniel Craig in there. You actually don't just see just a black, just shadow of James Bond. You actually see Daniel Craig's James Bond in there. I love that. I love that a lot. And you can tell it's a love theme with Sam Smith's song. And when you see the movie and then you go back and you read the lyrics or you hear the lyrics, it's like, this works. This works really well, as a matter of fact. I'm not going to say it's my favorite Bond theme song. I'll save that for another day, but I will say that it does flow well when you mix it with the Thomas Newman score after he, is able to pull up from the chopper. I think that works really well. And it just does, I don't know. They blended it so well that it worked in off with us. So moving on here, let's go into the actual meat and potatoes of the movie. Obviously Bond, we know, was not supposed to be there. We go in, and the first thing we start off is in M's office. Once again, nice to see, that Mendes is still sticking traditionally with the old classic office. He still has the red leather door there. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, the red leather door is like a classic thing that's been there all the way back since 1962 with Dr. No. Sean Connery would walk into M. Bernard Lee's office, and then they don't have the light anymore, but the light would go green, and then he was able to enter after he was done flirting with Moneypenny. There was no flirting with Moneypenny in this, and so they decided to skip that and go right to the ass chewing by M. He's like, Mexico City, what were you doing there? And he's like, I was taking some overdue holiday. And bad impression, I know. But you get the point. Now, the thing is about that, though, is that it differed from what was in the trailer. In the trailer, I remember he was being more joking about it. This, he's just like, I was taking overdue holiday. Sir. And then, M decides to ground him, because obviously he wasn't supposed to be he wasn't supposed to be in there, and he blew up half a city block. At the same time, what's going on here is that there's terrorist attacks in the background going on by an unknown organization, possibly nobody knows yet. I'm just throwing this out there before I forget. So what's going on in the background here is they're trying to merge MI5 with MI6, and they're considering scrapping the 00 program. Now, we've technically seen something like that before. It was back in Never Say Never Again, where they were saying there's no, I remember Sean Connery saying to the new M there, saying there's very little use for the 00s, which is really ironic because that's kind of like what they are doing here, saying, now they're kind of comparing it with technology. So there's this program that Max Denby, he's also codenamed C by 007. What he sees like going to be the new section chief, and he's going to be controlling, he's like saying, my people are always welcome to, come stop by my office. And Bond's like, you little whatever. But, the point being though is that he's trying to get this program online called Nine Eyes. And it will give unlimited access to the world's intelligence, and just pretty much saying that the 00 program is of little use. It's prehistoric. It's old. It's not the new way. And it brings up so many different possibilities, just a way of thinking, just saying, well, given the time and the age that we live in, it's pretty interesting because, one, it's scary. I won't get political here, don't worry. But I will say just imagine if we had our intelligence, whatever country you're in, if it's all about surveillance and they'll be watching us, but at the same time, it's just like, oh, well, Bond, it's pretty much, okay, we're just pushing him to the side. And after what he did in Mexico, it's going to be, it's adding fuel to the fire, just saying, hey, you can't control your 00 agents, and, we really don't have use for them anymore. So really, really interesting, story going on there. What ends up also happening is that, I'm sorry, Bond is put on, he's grounded. M says that, I don't know what you're up to, but it needs to stop. Bond is just, he's pretty mad about this, obviously. But he's going to keep doing what he's doing because he's James Bond. So let's move into the Moneypenny part here. So Moneypenny, says that they recovered, personal effects from Skyfall. She delivers them to the apartment. Highlight about this was seeing Bond's apartment. I love seeing Bond's apartment. I think I know we saw it in Live and Let Die. I would assume that's his flat. It looked more like a house in a way. But the details that they put in this, they put all kinds of little odds and ends, and you really have to watch carefully. Everything from the little bulldog that M gave him or left him, in her will from, Skyfall that was there. The bottle of Macallan, there was the no furniture in there, which Moneypenny definitely, made sure that she, called him out on, just saying, did you just move in? And he's like, no, why? And, just because, he has a TV on the floor without any TV stand, but, it's home for him because obviously he's hardly ever there. What ends up, Moneypenny is going with this saying, everybody can't stop talking about what you did in Mexico, like you've crossed the line. I personally, I think that, you're just getting started. And, he shows her this video. There is a nice little cameo in here from Judi Dench. She pretty much says, along the lines of, Lucia Sierra, find him and kill him and don't miss the funeral. And she's like, oh, okay. And what Bond convinces Moneypenny to do is saying, hey, I need you to be my mole. I need you to do a little quiet digging for me behind M's back. And, this is very important. And, I think when she sees that it was from M, from the previous M, Judi Dench's M, I knew she had trust in her. So it's not just like he's just on some kind of wild goose chase. It's that something even bigger, that she's looking at the bigger picture, if you will. So, we go on to that. She brings him this picture, and the thing with this picture is, well, it's photoshopped, obviously, of a younger Daniel Craig, but it has an older gentleman in here and it has like, I guess child custody right papers, if you will, and there's a burnt edge of another kid, but we don't get to see his face because, ironically, it's happened to be burned off. So something, Bond gives it this, this kind of frowny look, just like, okay, I know who that is, but, we'll get to that later. So moving on here, Tanner returns. We actually do get to see, Roy Kinnear come back. I really liked him. He's been there since Quantum of Solace, with MI6. And, he's kind of, I would almost say he's like Bond's like friend in a way. It's not just like coworkers, but he's somebody that Bond can always trust or rely on. We've seen different interpretations of him in other James Bond movies, but I think this is one of my favorite interpretations of him. Because he's not just like a quiet little character. He's always involved with this. He's involved with M. He's involved with Moneypenny, when it comes to the mission. He's always there for Bond also. So they do their thing, and they end up going to the Q branch, and this is where this was a nice welcome return. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Yes, I know Q was back in Skyfall, but we didn't have a Q Labs. So now we're getting a new Q Labs, and I'm like, yes. Once again, fist pump. There you go. Yeah, I like doing my fist pumps. Anyway, it was nice to see the return, but I like how, modern version of a Q branch, it's not going to be just like the white lab coats anymore. Like they said before, it's going to be kind of hidden underground. Nobody's going to be able to see this. And it's just kind of like, it was just recently put together. They're saying Q felt a little bit more comfortable over here. And that plays so well with this Q character that Ben Whishaw does play, because he's kind of like this, I would say kind of like he said he's a great gray tea, Earl Grey tea drinking, can, do more in his pajamas, than Bond can do in a year in the field and stuff like that. So we kind of get that idea that it's just like the younger generation kind of hipster in a way and stuff. And, he's like almost like the exact opposite of Bond. But the chemistry that him and Daniel Craig have, Daniel Craig the great thing about Daniel Craig is he has chemistry with a lot of his fellow co-stars in this. The biggest one I think that we did see and was a welcome treat is that, Ben Wishaw's Q, they play so well off of each other. This is where the humor aspect, they brought in even more humor. And I think that's what Ben Whishaw is kind of serves in this is just, he's not only just Q, but he is also kind of like the lighter tone of the movie. Things to like doing the smart blood with the nanotechnology. He's like, you might feel a little prick. He's like, and Bond, he's like, yo, the DB10, this was meant for you, but we've given it to 009. But I do have this watch for you. And Bond's like, does it do anything? He's like, yes, tells the time. And he's like, but watch out for that alarm clock on there. And the little line that when you see the blown up Aston Martin, the DB5, yes, it did return, from Skyfall when, it was blown up in there. And then Q makes the great line just saying, I did ask you to return this in one piece, not one piece like this, something along those lines. But the delivery was great. And then what he was saying, Bond was saying is, I need you to help me disappear. And he's like, I have, cats to feed and I have, mortgage, whatever. And Bond's like, we'll do it for the sake of the cats. And then he's like, I can give you 48 hours. And Bond just does that grin. So suave. Gotta love Daniel Craig. So, love that stuff. And then the scene when Bond actually takes the DB10 from underneath his nose, and then, what's supposed to happen is that obviously 009 was supposed to get the DB10, but, and he was there for the delivery of it in Q branch, but ends up when, Q walks into his lab and then he opens the doors that there's just a nice chill bottle of what I believe is, Bollinger. Could be 62 Bollinger. I'm just taking a wild guess there. And, just how he reacts in there. It was great. So, moving on here, let's talk about the Rome. So this is the real start of the mission as, in a way, Bond's continuing his mission. Actually, that would probably be the better way to say it. He's still on his chase of trying to figure out what's going on. He's going to Sciarra's funeral. How Rome was shot, let me just say, Rome, out of all the sequences in this whole movie, I think this is probably one of my favorite places that we were able to visit throughout this whole movie. It makes me want to go to Rome yesterday. Not that I didn't want to before, but I want to go even more just because of how this was shot. It wasn't shot by the same cinematographer, which was Roger Deakins. He did Skyfall, which I think is one of the best cinematographies ever in a Bond movie. This was done by Hoyt Van, I don't remember. Fact checkers check me anyway. But, he did just recently the cinematography for Interstellar, which was also, he worked with Christopher Nolan on that. But I really liked his cinematography with this. Like I said, with the one track shot that he did from the very beginning. I love that. With this, just everything, just how he shot the daylight sequences and just everything, the nighttime chase, car chase. And, when we were at the, SPECTRE meeting, all things like that. I loved. So let's fast forward to when he meets, Monica Bellucci's character. He's saying that, can't you see it? She says, can't you see I'm grieving? And he's like, no, I'm selling life insurance, something along those lines. And just, it's Bond being, it's that humor in there, that witty humor. He's not just saying, oh, hey, I'm James Bond, you want to shag. Nothing like that, no. But he's still doing his Bond thing and all. I like that how Daniel Craig just threw it when he saw the, the bodyguards for Sciarra, he kind of does this little, he does that little wave. And I was like, that is such a Sean Connery thing. But I love that. I love that welcoming. It's kind of nice. It's just kind of carrying on, or maybe even a throwback to it in a way. I don't know. Love that. One of the better Rome sequences in here were when Monica Bellucci arrives home after the funeral, and then she's walking home. She takes off her hat, pours herself a drink, and then she's just kind of walking down the hallways. And all of a sudden, when we're looking around the wall corner, she doesn't see it, but we do. We see one guy pop around, and he's armed with a gun with a silencer. We see a couple hallways down, another guy, and they just start following her to the outside. She's in her like little court backyard there, and then they're raising the guns, and she knows what's about to happen. She knows it's coming anytime soon. And then all of a sudden, you hear like that, and then but it wasn't them. It was Bond, and Bond being Bond. Let me just say something about this real quick, though. The Walther PPK made its return, which I was really happy about. Seeing the Walther PPK with the silencer. It's something about that's very, it's something that symbolizes James Bond since Sean Connery. I don't think Roger Moore ever did it. I know that Timothy Dalton did. He had that oversized silencer in Living Daylights, and Pierce did it a couple times also with his movies. It's just something about that. It just symbolizes to me something about being an assassin, about being a spy, just having that. So it was a little tidbit in there for me that I really enjoyed. How he was, how his conversation, it was a small scene, unfortunately, with Monica Bellucci, but it was a well done scene. In there, just how he kind of puts her up against the mirror, and he's like, I need you to tell me about this organization. What's going on? I know they're coming to kill us, whatever. And she's like, what's your name? Bond. James Bond. Like that. Great delivery. Probably one of the, it was a great delivery. I think it's probably Daniel's, if not second best delivery of the names Bond, James Bond. I know he's only had 3 of them, but I will say at the Casino Royale, that's probably his best, obviously. Skyfall was good. Skyfall was good delivery, but this one was just a nice, soft, suave Bond. James Bond. Like that. Oh. Anyway, you can tell that, I really like that. Anyway, so let's move on here. So, I liked how, he left the information. There was a nice little Easter egg in there for, Felix Leiter saying, I'm leaving the number for my name for my friend Felix, from Washington. He'll be able to protect you. So let's go over to when Bond is at the secret meeting, ends up being for Spectre. This was, I could talk about this all day also. I know I keep saying that, but there's so many different things I could talk about. But with this, I will say that, we've seen Spectre meetings. I think the only Spectre meeting actually, though, that the big Spectre meeting that I ever recall is with Thunderball. Thunderball had, you had Largo show up, and you never saw the face of Blofeld in there. We only knew him as number 1. We never knew him as officially Blofeld yet. But now it's like I said, it's an updated version of it. They're meeting in a not so public place. I guess it is sectioned off. In order to, get into this meeting, if you will, you have to just show your ring like this and put up, so they can see the bottom of the ring, so it's hidden. And Bond's line about like, I'm Mickey Mouse, and then he shows the ring. I really like that. But what I like this is that how they pan it around is that we're seeing it through Bond's eyes. We're seeing it, it's just like, wow, there's all this going on. This organization it's not just like 5 people in a meeting. This is like about a good 100 people almost. They have it all around this huge table. And they have a second level where people are just circling around looking down. It's like they're watching a show in a way. And Bond's just he blends in just well enough. And cause that's what he does. He's a spy. And, they're talking about all kinds of things, whether it's terrorism. I think they were talking about prostitution in there. And then all of a sudden one of the ladies is carrying on about her, something on that's going on, one of their plans. These huge double doors open to where the main chair is, and then you see bodyguards walk in with this one guy. He's not so big, but it's just like royalty just showed up. It's like the king just showed up, and then he sits down, and then what's great about this is so they take the microphone. There's a microphone at all the tables, so everybody can hear it and they can translate and stuff. But what they did is they took a microphone, and it was far enough away from the table, so he kind of looks over to his bodyguard, or he kind of whispers something. He did a little bit of whispering in there, and we never knew what to expect. And then they moved the microphone up, and he's like, "Don't let me interrupt you. You may continue." Something like that. Or here it is. "Don't let me interrupt you." Very nice. Very, and a deep whispering voice. That reminded me of Thunderball. It reminded me of Thunderball, and it reminded me of From Russia with Love. And I'm like, I'm giddy, because it was just like, I don't know if Christoph Waltz did that voice on purpose. I'm going to guess that he did. He knew exactly what he was doing. I knew the producers or the writers asked him to do that. And because it was just like, it's Blofeld. We know it's Blofeld, which is, by the way, the worst kept secret ever. We'll go on to talk about that in a little while also. But, so I like all that. I liked, Hinks. So let's talk about Mr. Hinks. Mr. Hinks also makes his introduction in here also. He was played by Dave Bautista. I liked him. I liked him as Mr. Hinks. My complaint was that, we didn't get to see much of him, and he wasn't doing so much to set him aside. I mean, sure, while it's creepy, he pushed in the guy's eyeballs and then broke his neck. I can't figure out what that silver stuff on his thumbnails were. Maybe you guys can tell me after you listen to this. I liked his character. He didn't talk. I think that's like something about being a Bond henchman. You can't talk and you just have to grin just a little bit. He's like a combination, I guess. He's more of like a modern day odd job without the hat. I think that, I liked him. Like I said, I just think there was nothing that really differentiated him from like your typical henchman. I mean, we've seen plenty of Bond henchmen, that are strong. Bond will have a couple fights with them, and they can take multiple punches to the face, and it won't even faze them at all. That's kind of what this was. But I'll save my good part for a little while. Let's go to this part. Still sticking with the meeting. Fast forward, and then all of a sudden, this mystery guy, we'll call him number one for now, is saying, all of a sudden a distant bell rang, and then he's like, "Welcome, James. It's been a long time, and finally, here we are. What took you so long?" And Bond is literally like, "He mentioned my name. Oh my God. How's he know my name?" Excuse me. And, he just has this, just like I said, with Daniel Craig also, if I haven't mentioned this before, his facial expressions can just, that's part about him being such a great actor. He can just, he can go from being, "I'm Bond," and then he's like, "Oh my God, I know that face. And then, that number one's like, "Cuckoo," and then Bond runs, and then, then proceeding to the car chase. Now, let's talk about this car chase, okay? So we've had many car chases before. We've had car chases with the Aston Martin, more recently with Quantum of Solace. I will say that this car chase, it was, right now I'm going to say it's not as good as Quantum of Solace. I know I'm comparing apples to oranges in a way. And that's the good thing about this, actually. And maybe when we look back, maybe some of you will, disagree with me on this. Maybe you won't. I don't know. Let me know what you think. But I will say that, while the editing of Quantum of Solace's, Aston Martin car chase with the DBS, it was choppy. It was edited so fast that, it was a quick 2 minutes. This one took the opposite way. It added, it was like a good 10-minute car chase almost. It felt like 10 minutes anyway. We see the new Aston Martin DB10. Mr. Hinks is chasing him through downtown Rome at the nighttime. Like I said, how this was shot, downtown Rome. This car chase just symbolizes of how well how well Rome was shot anyway. I liked how they added more humor to this. I liked how the gadgets didn't work. So he's trying to do one of the gadgets. He he turns the button for backfire, and guess what? It doesn't work. He's like, "Oh, no. When, he hits music by accidentally. It was 009's playlist or something like that. It's playing New York, New York. I like that kind of stuff. He's doing one-liners, and this is, I think we've seen Bond, or maybe we have. I don't know. We haven't really seen Daniel Craig's Bond do many one-liners to himself. So I remember, like, even back in the days of, like, Goldfinger, when, Sean Connery was driving the Aston Martin, he's like, "Control yourself, 007. Control yourself." Something along those lines. I was like, I like this. I like that, he's just, I don't know about you guys, but I talk to myself. Technically, I'm talking to myself right now, aside from being on a webcam and a podcast. But, I really liked how he's doing that. He's pushing how he pushed the little Fiat, the older man in the Fiat. I like that a lot, because he just, he just revs up the Aston Martin, and just he's able to get up to speed so fast that he pushes it into the parking spot, and then the airbag deploys. Really funny. Things we probably wouldn't have seen before in a Bond movie, I guess, in such a long time. I liked in here how he calls Moneypenny, and Moneypenny's at home, and Moneypenny isn't in bed alone. Her boyfriend, we'll say, is asleep next to her. Moneypenny was awake on her computer or on her phone or whatever. And she tells the guy, she's like, "Oh, don't worry, my boss just lost his credit card. I'll be up for a few minutes." And then Bond's like, "Who is that?" And she's like, "Oh, just a friend." at this time of night? And she's like, it's called life, James. You should try it. And I'm like, I like that because that's just showing that, okay, while everybody else, James Bond is, yes, out saving the world, we're living in this cinematic universe where I guess, or this movie universe in a way, just where everybody else is, typical, you'll see Moneypenny. She goes home at the end of the day. Maybe Q is stuck in his lab working on his next gadget. Who knows? He might be out dining at dinner, something like that. So I like that element of it. So, and then, in my mind with this car chase, I will say that it had two different parts. It had more of just like the humor aspect of it. Like the first half was more humor and more the conversation with Moneypenny. The second part was the real actual car chase when we get into the waterway chase. So they go down and they're like going along this like river, I guess like stream or something like that. And, he's still being pursued by Mr. Hinks. Mr. Hinks wasn't able to do many things besides just you think he'd be shooting him, but he's just kind of chasing him in the car. And it worked. I liked it. So Bond, he does actually get one of the gadgets to work, and he's like, all right, come on, Q, give me something. And he gets the flamethrowers out of the back, and I really like that. Good throwback to, which was it? It was, You Only Live Twice. Thank you. Little Nelly had the exact same thing, but still, I liked it. I think it was probably intentionally meant to do that. Actually, the buttons in that Aston Martin DB10 are very reminiscent of the ones in Little Nelly. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Let me know what you think. So, I like that. I liked how they had, it was kind of an ejector seat. It is an ejector seat in a way, but they put an update to it. Instead of just pushing the button, they actually, he pushes it and it does like a throwback to GoldenEye. Yeah. It like kind of like when he ejected from the Tiger helicopter, you push the buttons and the whole seat goes out of it. And then the parachute deploys, which he of course, another Aston Martin down the drain. It crashed right into the riverbank. And then, but I did like that, he landed on the road, but he's able to walk just very casually. And he's like, good evening. And just like that. So once again, what's going on in the background at all this time is the Nine Eyes system. C is, hell-bent on getting this Nine Eyes system together. He's even saying, this is for the sake of security and so forth, whatever. So at the same time, Bond makes it to Austria. He determined from Moneypenny who the Pale King is. Ends up being that the Pale King is Mr. White. Now, let me just say, I love Mr. White's character. I love the part that Jesper Christensen has brought from this. It's the Daniel Craig era of James Bond. The only time that we haven't had Jesper Christensen was in Skyfall. So in order to tie things together, I think there was no better way than to bring Mr. White back. It's something about how, once again, the chemistry that him and Bond have, it's like they understand each other at the same time they despise each other. It's like listening to like an older mentor with his son or his mentee in a way, I guess you will. But it's kind of like that. They know each other. It's like, come on, Mr. White, come upstairs. Something like that. And then Mr. White's like, mind you, Mr. White, though, he also he's looking a little scruffy these days. He's got the beard, he's got longer hair, and his health looks pretty bad, as a matter of fact. And we get that answer now. He's like, I always knew death would have a familiar face, but not yours. To what do I owe this pleasure, Mr. Bond? And just, I love that. It's like, it's like, I know who you are, you know who I am, not gonna, my name. Haha, there, I did it. All that stuff. And then he's like, I was at a meeting recently and your name came up. And he's like, I'm flattered that London still remembers me. He's like, it wasn't my team, it was yours. And he shows him the ring, and he says that he found thallium in his, I believe it's thallium in his cell phone. It only gave him a couple weeks to live. And what's going on with that, it's just because, in other words, Mr. White, felt that what Spectre was doing with killing women and children, as Bond said, he grew a conscience. What I like about that is because, remember, this is the same Mr. White that we saw that killed Lashif and killed, anybody who didn't think that, what'd he say? Money isn't as important to this organization as knowing who to trust. And then, he just, he gave Lashif one to the head and then moved on. Same with the briefcase with money. It's just that Mr. White just always had that mentality of just like nothing scared him. Now we're looking at a Mr. White just saying, okay, well, I've given up, but even so, I'm still not I'm not intimidated by you, James Bond. So you can do what you have to do, but just make it quick. And, in other words, and then Bond's like, you're protecting somebody, obviously. So, and then he determines it's his daughter and saying, you know what, here's my promise. I will protect her. And they make an agreement that, with Mr. White saying, if you can protect my daughter, maybe you can, and then, if you do get her, she will lead you to La American and get, just pretty much something along those lines. He has no idea what the L'American is. I don't want to spoil it just yet. Anyway, though we know what it is. I liked really here, like I said, if there's anything I wanted more is more of Mr. White and James Bond. I love those two on screen together. I just, like I said, that was my only complaint about, that character is just like, I wanted more, but hey, it is what it is. It was nice welcoming return for that. Unfortunately, he did meet his demise at the end of that. He's like, and he had the best line in the movie. You're a kite dancing in a hurricane, Mr. Bond. And once again, love that. So at the same time, though, we go back to London and C's trying to get this online. M and C, they're butting heads this whole time because you have C, who's probably who is younger, clearly, than M. M still believes that the 00 program does serve a purpose. And the line in here that he delivers to C was a really interesting one because, okay, he said, have you ever had to kill somebody? And, he's like, have you? He's like, well, a license to kill is also a license not to kill. And all the bugs, drones, and what have you cannot match a man in the field. And then, C makes the argument, well, how can you know who to trust because you're men in the field, I didn't want to have to do this, but he's sneaking around your back and stuff. And he's like, M's saying like, you're having us watched. And he's like, I watch everybody. So it's like, okay, we know C is in on something. So now we continue into Austria. Now we actually get to meet Mr. White's daughter, Dr. Madeline Swan, played by Leah Seydoux. I've only seen her once or twice before. Last time I saw her was in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. The only reason I bring that up is because she was in a spy movie and she was actually playing a spy. I thought that was kind of ironic. This time she's not playing that. She's not exactly like a damsel in distress. I would say she's actually a very, not just an intelligent woman, but there's more to her than meets the eye, if you will. I like the conversations. Let's get this out of the way now too. Her and Daniel Craig, they had chemistry, but not quite the chemistry that I've seen that I would say that him and Ava Green did in Casino Royale, with Vesper Lynd and James Bond. And that's clearly what they were trying to go for here. And it just, I know I'm jumping ahead here, but I will say that it didn't work as well as I wanted it to. I mean, it's nothing against Leah Seydoux. It wasn't her fault. I think it's just kind of how maybe it was written. I think that she did deliver her part excellent. I just think that it was almost too soon in a way. I know it's been almost practically 9 years since the Vesper incident, if you will, for James Bond anyway. But at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. It's almost like they tried to make her into Vesper in a way, just, how she acted with him. I liked how they were when they were at the clinic. She's like, do you exercise? Do you find your job stressful? What is your occupation? And he's like, well, that's not so thing that looks good on a form. And he's like, I kill people. And just saying, your father sent me here to protect you and I'm here to do that. And she's like, I don't need protection. People who have been looking for my father are going to be looking for me. You probably tracked him here. So during that time, Bond, was kicked out of her office and, what does he do? It's time to have a drink, right? So he orders a vodka martini, shaken and not stirred. He did do the full delivery for that, which I don't think he's ever done before. He did it very well. But the unfortunate thing is that they only serve health drinks there. Q was nice enough to sneak up behind him and order him a nice health drink. At the same time, he's trying to convince, Bond to say, hey, you need to get back. Q wants my balls for Christmas decorations, because all hell is breaking loose right now. See, there's that added humor by, Ben Whishaw again. But he's like, I need you to do one more thing. Find out what you can about this ring. And then he's like, I really, really hate you right now. Thank you, Q. And then, all of a sudden, Mr. Hinks returns. He kidnaps, the rest of the Spectre agents, or Spectre henchmen, if you will. They kidnap Madeline Swan, and now it's time for the next chase. There are a lot of chases in this movie. Not that we haven't had them before, but there are a lot of chases in here. I liked the plane chase in here. it was different because it's a car / plane chase. So you have all the SUVs, Bond's, being Bond, but instead he's using the plane more as like he's playing chicken with these cars. Now, I know a lot of people have talked online saying, man, it would have been great because he's all where the clinic was shot. I believe it was still Austria. It would have been so great if we had a ski chase. I'm not sure what the reason was for the ski chase. I like you. I wish there would have been a ski chase, but it is what it is. I liked how they did the plane chase. He's like pretty much chasing them, and even when he lost the wings to the plane, he's still chasing them. So the action with that was really good. I liked it, especially his little, I guess, like little salute in a way, or his like little thing that he did to Mr. Hinks. Stuff like that. Those little odds and ends I always like about the Bond movies. It's kind of like his little wave. After all this happens, it turns out that, Q is determined that, after analyzing the ring, somehow, some way, he can take that ring and get all these fingerprints and all this data off of it. I know Sam Mendes has talked about it before, but still, it is what it is. He's saying that, 007, I was wrong. Everything, it's all connected. Le Chiffre, Green, Mr. Silva, Sciarra, they all lead to this. They're all part of this organization. And that, Madeline Swan says that its name is Spectre. Very sexy, by the way. I loved her delivery with that. It just, and let me get this out of the way also. I liked that they connected everything from the previous Daniel Craig Bond movies, especially about the secret organization, with it being connected with quantum, because technically in another language, it does mean Spectre. I will say that I didn't like it so much that it was connected with Skyfall. I was kind of hoping Skyfall would be its separate own movie in a way. I was hoping that, hey, this is, it's comparing apples to oranges, maybe. Skyfall is like Sean Connery's, or like the Sean Connery Goldfinger. It's Daniel Craig's Goldfinger. There was the one time where he wasn't battling up against Spectre, but now you're saying that Silva was an agent for, or working for Spectre. It's like, this is where it starts to get me. I'm like, all right, but I can deal with it. Yeah, it makes sense, with what they talk about later on, but it's just like, I wish it wasn't good. It wasn't like that, but hey, all right, I'll keep on watching. So it ends up being that him and Madeline Swan, she tells him that La American is not a person, it's actually a hotel. So they journey off to Tangiers. One thing to definitely be said about Daniel Craig when he's on his missions is that, boy, that man can dress. I know in a recent interview when he was in New York, just saying that I think it was his grandfather was a tailor. So he's into that kind of whole fashion thing. We'll talk about fashion in a couple weeks, as a matter of fact, but I'll say that I just want to throw that out there. All his little outfits, like he has his classic blue polo. He has like his, that man has so many different jackets and shirts and pants and shoes that he wears. It's like become a new part of the movie almost in a way. When they are in La American, it turns out, they didn't know why. Bond's trying to figure out why he was there. And, you have Madeline Swan just trying to figure out, saying, why did I even come? Because, I'm still not sure about if I can trust James Bond, and I'm not going to fall in love with him. She's like almost refusing. This isn't the part where I fall into your arms or something like that, or trying to find solace for my dead daddy. And I was like, ooh. I was like, okay, I like that a lot. So it ends up being that, Bond discovers the secret room, in La American, and, I really like the secret room. Because it had some Easter eggs in here, I liked how it showed that Mr. White wasn't, I guess, it showed a different side of Mr. White saying, hey, you know what? While he's this guy, he works for this secret organization, and that what now we know is it wasn't just Quantum, it was actually Spectre. It seems that he really did truly have a heart, like, he was saying, and like even Bond explained to Madeline Swan, saying, your father, he was holding onto his last breath only because of you, because he loved you so much. And Bond, who would have ever thought 007 would be saying that about Mr. White? But then you can see that by looking at the pictures of when Madeline Swan was young, of the family, with her and him together. While she's looking at that, Bond finds something that in a million years I never thought I would see, but, or I think we would see, it's the interrogation tape for Vesper Lynd. Best Easter egg of the whole movie right there, folks. Like I said, I love the character of Vesper Lynd, and I've always wanted to know, it'd be like, I wonder like how much they're really going to talk about this in this movie. But I liked what they did with this is that he picks up the interrogation tape and he's looking at it. He's just giving it this like, it's like he's like secretly remembering that, or kind of keeping him to himself. And Madeline Swan's like, what is it? And he's like, Nothing at all. And then he pulls up so it's just like, okay, that closure has come. He's moved on from Vesper Lynn. That was kind of an interesting part for me. I really like that part, as a matter of fact, just showing that, okay, the James Bond we know, it's just like, he hasn't forgotten Vesper, but at the same time, he's like, okay, remembering who to trust and, what she did. So I like that. So we see now at this time, I'm going off my notes here. I know. We're going back to, the 00 program is now shut down. So in the middle of this, they track down to like a hidden layer where, what's his name? Oberhauser is Franz Oberhauser, the character of Christoph Waltz. So they're trying to track him down because it turns out that Mr. White was trying to wants Bond to finish the job for him, something that he had started. He's like, in other words, that I want you to find him and kill him for him. And that's exactly what he wanted to do from the very beginning anyway. So, they pretty much take a train to nowhere. At the same time, like I said, the 00 program is shut down. So now, M is without a job. Moneypenny is without it. So now the whole Nine Eyes program is going to be up and running in less than, I guess we'll say 48 hours, sticks in my mind for some reason. So at this time, Bond is like, on the train with Madeline Swan. A nice little highlight in there is like where he's trying to show her how to use the gun, but she says she hates guns, but she picks up the gun and then she's able to, drop the magazine and she's able she's very familiar with how to work a gun. It's that she doesn't like guns. I like his line in there just saying, I don't have to teach you anything, do I? And it's like, okay, you can see that he's kind of like falling for her a little bit also. And then the dinner scene. Now this dinner scene is just, it rings to me like a classic, I'd say like a 1950s movie in a way. Just the lighting in here, the outfits that they were wearing, the return of the white dinner jacket that we haven't seen since Roger Moore, since Octopussy, made famous, I guess, more by Sean Connery and Goldfinger. He's wearing that. Her dress, she was wearing this lovely, lovely dress in there. They're having dinner. How they're drinking their martinis. They drink the dirty martinis. She says lines, and this is where I make the comparisons to Vesper. She's saying, why does a man choose the life of an assassin? Doesn't it always bother you being alone? She's like, you always have a choice. Things like that. And I'm like, she's bringing up very valid points. Absolutely. And he's just being kind of coy about it. He's just like, well, I've never really had to think about it before. I don't stop to think about it and stuff like that. And he's like, I really wouldn't know what to do. So it's bringing back stuff like that we saw at the beginning with Casino Royale when Vesper was asking that, just saying, what would you do, if you were to leave? And he's like, I don't know what an honest job would be because, I've always been doing this. So it's bringing back that again. So that's why I said the Vesper, I guess the character ring does kind of, come back to me in a way. So by that short time, all of a sudden, Mr. Hinks returns. Mr. Hinks, is back, and this Mr. Hinks fight versus James Bond is this is where I could definitely give credit to Dave Bautista and Daniel Craig with this fight. I love this fight. This is just a no holds bar. If there were stunt actors in this, you could barely tell because it was just done so well. The choreography, it wasn't like it was just like, okay, gentlemen, action, go at it, just act like you're fighting. Batista, just kick Bond's ass, something along those lines. And that's exactly what happened. You have everything from just being thrown through walls, being thrown into like tables, thrown into mirrors, Mr. Hinks being set on fire. You have like the little, I guess it's like a bottle cork. Bond's trying to use that, shadow boxing, all kinds of things like that. Ends up resulting in Mr. Hinks dying. Well, let me stop myself there. We don't know if Mr. Hinks officially died. I will say that, as the saying goes in movies, did you see the body? I will say that he didn't die. I'm gonna just go out on a whim there and say that he didn't die, but he did fall off the train. They did like a whole little Jaws thing where they wrapped around not the actor, not the character from The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker, but like the movie Jaws with the shark. How the kegs of, which I would assume is Heineken because that is a sponsor, it just kind of like, they went out the train and then Bond was able to tie a rope around his neck and he's like, shoot, like that. I'm keeping it PG-13 here, that is. Anyway, so he yells that out and that was about the end of Mr. Hinks. I'm like, kind of wanted more of Mr. Hinks. I truly did. Like I said, that would be my only complaint. And that they didn't give enough for Dave Bautista to do, but it is what it is. So after that, they're like, so now what do we do? And then they cue some more Sam Smith music. And then this is like the cue. It's like, okay, that's where the Sam Smith music comes in, because obviously they're falling in love here and stuff like that. So now they're at the train stop where it's like in the middle of nowhere. A nice welcoming return in here is something that we see a car approach, and then she lets Madeline Swan lets James Bond know this, and she's like, what is that? And he's like, that is a 1948 Rolls-Royce Silver Wraith. And he knew exactly what it was. As did the audience, as did we. Majority of you, if you are a Bond fan, then you knew exactly what that car was. You know, that was the car that was used by Goldfinger, that was driven by Oddjob in the movie Goldfinger. It was a yellow color at that time. I believe it also made an appearance in A View to a Kill. It was driven by Sir Godfrey Tibbett in there. It actually, what else was it used in? Nothing off the top of my head. Okay. Anyway, I was thinking. There was an author that was on here, Mr. Mark O'Connell. His grandfather actually drove a Rolls Royce little quick tidbit here. Rolls Royce for the Broccoli family, driving Albert, the producer, and the actors around and stuff like that. So I think just a little shout out to Mark O'Connell. He was a guest on the show anyway. But my point is that Rolls-Royce car does have like a big history in the Bond universe. So ends up being that they take him to the secret lair. It's an updated version, I guess, of a villain's secret lair. I mean, it's like a hollowed out, like, I guess, mountain volcano in a way and stuff like that. And it still has that modern technology around. And I gotta say, I really liked it. But at the same time, you see, just brand new green grass there. You see palm trees. You see fountains there and stuff. And you see these Mercedes and just like these more modern buildings. And I'm like, I was like, I like that, because you can't just do like, you can't. I don't know if you can go with any more just like being hidden in a volcano, because we've kind of seen that before. It's not like, maybe one day they can do the underwater building, kind of like how it was done in The Spy Who Loved Me. Maybe they can do that. I don't know. But right now, like I said, modern update, modern times. I liked what they did with this. So let's go forward to when we actually meet Franz Oberhauser. Christoph Waltz finally makes his actual appearance in this. We saw him casually in there. We saw him with a couple lines, but that was about it. He was at the funeral, but he didn't have any lines. Now, I liked how they did do this. They're looking at like I guess it's like the asteroid, and they're in this room, and there's only light shining on the asteroid, and then you just hear this voice, touch it if you like. And I'm like, that's Dr. No. That reminds me of a Dr. No thing right here when Strangway was going to get the spider, and he's like, pick it up. And it kind of reminded me of that in a way. I know I'm not the only one who thinks like this anyway. It's kind of, and then his quote just saying, I'm glad it all led up to this. I'm glad that we're finally here. And in my mind, I'm like, if you think about it, that's not just like because you've had this character just secretly around since, Daniel Craig's James Bond. It's that, the character of Blofeld has not been in the James Bond movie franchise for so long that I think it was kind of like a secret way of the writers or the producers just saying, it's like a reunion it really is a reunion of James Bond and that character of Ernest Stavro Blofeld. So I really like that. When he said, he's like, information is all. By now, you must know that the 00 program is no longer anymore. And he's like, which leads me to my next question. James, why are you here? So, why did you come? I came here to kill you. And I thought you came here to die. Well, it's all a matter of perspective. Love that. And he's like, speaking of perspective. And I was like, there it is. A little bit like kind of like the Inglourious Bastards. Because I was kind of waiting for that kind of, because I really like that movie with him. Because I know that Christoph Waltz, he's a great actor. 2-time Oscar winner, as a matter of fact. And just his deliveries can be. When we're talking about this character of Franz Oberhauser, Blofeld, whatever we want to call him by now, we already know what he is. I think that it was kind of, of course I wanted more of it, just like I do everything else. But I will say that it was his lines that were written for him. Everything that he had, he did very well with. Now, even Christoph Waltz has said in a recent interview saying, I wish I could have done better with it. And I'm like, oh, I thought you did pretty good. I thought you did really good with that. Maybe it was just because he had a hard act to follow. I think that Javier Bardem, I think he just raised the bar with the villain of Mr. Silva. I think Mr. Silva was such a great villain. He was comical. He was very scary at the same time. And Blofeld is just more of kind of like, yeah, I'm Blofeld. It's me. It's been me, James, the author of all your pain, stuff like that. And I'm like, I like that. It's just that maybe he just wasn't as intimidating to me as Silva, because Silva, you just never knew what to expect. Blofeld was more kind of monotone in a way. But like I said, I still liked his character. I just said that, he's not my favorite Blofeld, and I would say it's going to remain Donald Pleasance. And once again, Donald Pleasance, we really didn't get to see throughout the movie, but just Donald Pleasance, when I think of Blofeld, I still think of him. Christoph Waltz still did a good job. It's just, going on with this, they talk about like, how it was, Blofeld secretly in the background, it's because of James, he's been, anytime James is like interfered with his, you interfered in my world, I destroyed yours. So, and all the women that you love, because of me, it's always been me. Best Berlin, she was the big one, and your beloved M, and just stuff like that. And then, he has a background with, Madeline, because of her father, obviously, because he actually snuck her into her house at one time too. He's like, I remember you when you were such a little girl. My, have you grown? Something along those lines. So he's been around interfering with these people's lives for so long. So it ends up being that, we get to see, Bond, he ends up putting Bond in a torture chair. It's another torture scene, maybe too soon once again. We had the torture scene once again in Casino Royale where the chief had him tied naked to a chair. One would say, coming from a guy perspective, that might be the most, horrific torture that a guy can undergo, not knowing from experience, but I would just say it's very hard to watch sometimes. But the scene was played out so well. So with this torture scene, I'm like, okay, well, what are they up to this time? Well, it has the drills. And then they drill into the side of his face, and they drill into his jaw, and it's supposed to. What I do like about this is that how Blofeld was saying, it's just that, I'm going to penetrate. How do I say that? He's going to kind of get into his mind, and he's going to almost make him not remember anything, like he wouldn't remember Madeline Swan at all. So his quote was, "A man's soul lives inside his head, and I'm going to get into James's head." We saw the welcoming return of, yes, the classic white pussycat. I liked how the cat jumped up on Bond's lap, and he's like, "Oh, hello, pussy," like that. And I really like that. It's just like, yep, there it is. He didn't, what I liked about with at least this new updated Blofeld is that he had the white cat. He picked it up, he kissed it, and then he put it back down. But that cat he's not just sitting in a chair, just stroking the pussy cat the whole time. It's just like, the cat's around. We know it's there. We saw him hold it, and that was enough for me. So love that. He goes on to explain saying, for a couple winters, after the poor little blue-eyed orphan's parents died, my father took him in, and, I was asked to treat him as my brother, my little brother. And, he taught him to ski, climb, hunt, and they formed quite the attachment. And then, then he goes on to explain to Madeline saying, so you know what happens when another cuckoo hatches inside of another bird's nest? And then he's like, she's like, yes, it pushes the other ones aside. So clearly, as one of my friends would say, daddy issues. Yes, daddy issues are in here. Jealousy is definitely a thing. So you have to wonder if this can be taken two different ways. Was Christoph Waltz's character doing all this? Did he kill all of Bond's women, I guess, if you will say, just because he happened to interfere with this? And did he create Spectre because of James Bond? I don't think so. Absolutely not. I just think that, just saying that he went on to be the villain of all villains, and, it's just that they just happened to cross paths, and he knew who Bond was. He knew that he was the MI6 agent. He knew his little brother, and, he's just like, okay, well, little brother, you're going to get in my way. I'm going to take away something that you love. And that's exactly what happened here. So that's at least how I take it. I'd love to hear what you guys have to think about this. So I like that. I liked how he's, was it Bond said, he's like, do you know any other catchy bird names, Franz? And he's like, Franz Oberhauser died during that day. The man you're looking at, the man inside your head, is Ernst Stavro Blofeld. And you would expect something like a dun 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 kind of thing. I guess we were all kind of expecting that in a way, but it kind of played it casually. And I believe in interviews I heard just like, well, remember, we're seeing this through Bond's eyes, and this is unofficially the first time James Bond's ran into us. It's not going to be like, oh, you're Blofeld. It's like, oh, you're Blofeld. Catchy name. I like that. So I did like that line. You know, and then when he's drilling into his mind, trying to make him forget, saying, oh, you're not going to remember Madeline, he's like, you know, Madeline goes up to him, kind of wakes him up saying, I love you. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Too soon, I'm afraid. Too soon. And too soon to say I love you, I guess, especially only after like a couple days. I don't know. I guess it depends on love. I have no idea. No, I do, but just not but that fast anyway. So, you know, I liked how they had the watch gadget in here. The watch gadget played very well. They kind of are going against what they said in Skyfall, saying, oh, we don't go for the, you were expecting an exploding pen. We don't go quite for that anymore. But they have an exploding watch. It's like, all right, it's an Omega watch. Okay, whatever. It was a funny line at Skyfall, but now we get the exploding watch. I'll take it. And by the way, great watch. You know, and then he, you know, gives it to Madeline. He's like, 1 minute. And then, you know, then throw it. And then he whispers, Tempus Fugit. And he's like, I can't understand what you're saying, James. And he's like, Tempus Fugit. Doesn't time fly? And then, you know, she throws it and then blows up his computer and stuff. And then he's able to get out of the chair. Now, this is where my big problem is with the whole movie. It's just that, okay, he was tortured. Okay, he was tortured when he was drilled into the head. One can only imagine what that would do to you. But when you're drilled into the head and then you're able to pick up a machine gun, and go John Rambo on them and be quite the marksman, it's like, really? I didn't like that. I honestly did not like that. How can you shoot every other guy without any trouble? I've heard theories out there that really didn't happen. It's kind of just like an alternate universe, just where we think, you know, it's kind of like a dream. It's like Bond really didn't do that. I've heard that. I was like, I could kind of see that, but this is honestly, I think it was just the writing. I think if they would have written it, if they could have written it better, if I could have fixed, Spectre, and believe me, I have no writing expertise at all. I would have said, from a fan point of view, I would have said, you know what? Let's make it so Bond is still coming at, you know, he's still feeling the after effects of the drill. And let's make it so, why doesn't he have Madeline Swan? She's, you know, if she knows how to use guns like you explained it and you even set it up there, why isn't she the one shooting the guards? Why isn't she the one, you know, helping plan this escape? But yeah, I'd say that was a missed opportunity, and that was kind of poor in my mind. So I was disappointed with that. You know, I did like the big explosion that they had at Blofeld's lair. It ended up being the biggest explosion set in history. Like that a lot. Another helicopter of escape in there. You know, so it's just like, okay, so what did that drill really do? I mean, you can get a drill in the head twice and you can get away, you can fly, you can shoot, and I'm like, okay. So let's, go to the final part of the third act here. So now we're back in London. You know, they have the safe house. They meet in the safe house with M, Tanner, and Q. And, now that, Nine Eyes is getting ready to go online, they're going to try to stop this. Did like the, Easter egg in here where it said Hildebrand Rarity Safe House. And Q's like, I've never heard of it. He's like, it's a safe house. How would you hear of it? And, you know, just a little, tip of the hat there to Ian Fleming's, short story Hildebrand Rarity. You know, what ends up happening is, you know, Madeline decides, you know, hey, you know, you guys are going to go off and save the world, or try and stop this, but I don't want any more parts of this. I don't want this lifestyle of saying, you're a good man, James. And, you know, but what does Bond do? Well, he's like, well, gotta go take care of business, gotta go stop the bad guy. So he kind of just walks away kind of casually. I'm like, well, I thought you loved her, but okay. All right. It is what it is. You know, maybe you're thinking in your mind, trying to keep her safe. Okay, so now after they move on there, now they're trying to stop the countdown. They're heading over to C's building and trying to stop him, and they're trying to get him, and they're trying to stop Q's trying to stop the Nine Eyes program from going online. You know, what ends up happening is that the Spectre henchmen there, they actually crash into M's car. You know, they capture Bond, and M makes a getaway. He's able to still ride around with Tanner, Moneypenny, and Q. You know, I like that. I like seeing the whole kind of team out there. It's not something we would normally see. I don't think we normally would have seen M, the old Bernard Lee M, and Louise Maxwell. I don't think we would have ever really seen them in the field, or even Desmond Llewellyn. We've seen them in the field, but not quite like that. So it's just, you know, I really like seeing that. at the same time, though, they kidnap Bond. They take him to this building. He's being tied up in the back. Then all of a sudden, he's able to pull out of it, and then without seeing anybody, he's able to shoot him. I'm like, that's a Bond moment. Absolutely, that's really a Bond moment. But at the same time, it's just still. I guess I'm still kind of bitter, about the drill in the head, but it's like, okay, well, maybe a drill in the head improves your marksman skills. I have no idea. So, but I did like where what the building that they did take him to. It is the MI6 building that was rigged for demolition. The one that was destroyed by Mr. Silva in Skyfall. As he walks into the building, I like seeing the spray painted James Bond on the wall. So that literally there you have it. The writing's on the wall. I liked all that. I like seeing M sneaking up on C at the same time, and when they're in the security building where C's new digs. I liked how he's saying, not a good feeling being watched. And, C pulls his gun and he's kind of giving him this whole spiel saying, look at the world, how it is, because of politicians and paper pushers like you believe in democracy, whatever the hell that is, something along those lines anyway. And then he pulls the gun on him, and he's like, then again, isn't that what M stands for? Moronic. And then, of course, there's no bullets in the gun. And then what I like, this is a good throwback to Casino Royale. Instead of holding the magazine, M is actually holding the bullets in there from C's gun. And he's like, and now we know what C stands for. Careless. Love that a lot. Then we're switching back in between these two buildings. So while Bond is like following the arrows on this little wild goose chase here, if you want to call it, this little thing that they have him going through, like jumping through hoops, we see now, I guess on the shooting range, we see pictures of himself on there. You see the targets like switching around, and you see Daniel Craig's face, and it's like, ooh, I love that stuff. I love this a lot. I loved as he's moving, I guess it's like the showers are moving further down this hallway. We see pictures of Lashif. We see pictures of Mr. Silva. We see pictures of Vesper. We see pictures of Judi Dench's M. And it's like a reminder. It's like, okay, that's what I've done to you. All because of me, James Bond, Blofeld. And, he thinks he has a shot on him. He obviously doesn't. And he shoots the glass, and all of a sudden you see what another thing we've been waiting for quite a while is the marking on his eye. We see that marking like along his eye, kind of like how they did with Donald Pleasance in a way, but more of an updated version. His eye's a little white and stuff. So really like that. And then, I like his line. He's like, "You're a hard man to kill, Blofeld." And, he's like, "Did you miss me?" He's like, "No." He's like, "My wounds will heal. How about yours?" And just like, he's like, "Think about it, James. Everything you ever stood for, everything you ever believed in, are all ruined." And, just all this kind of stuff. So, and then, I like those kind of delivery lines by Christoph Waltz, but, like I said, it was just, I guess I wanted more. Maybe I expected more. I have no idea. And then he turns on the timer. He's like, I know the person that does care about you, and he's like, "You're bluffing." And then he's like, 3 minutes. 3 minutes, this building will be demolished. And now you have to choose between the girl or to save yourself. And you obviously can't do them both. And those 3 minutes, I believe, is the same kind of 3 minutes that we saw in GoldenEye also. So like I said, there's a lot of Easter eggs, especially with this movie. And this is where it's like, okay, well, when Bond is trying to find Madeline Swan, it's like, that's a really big building. And even if I was trying to find somebody in 3 minutes, find my dog in my house, I don't know if I could do that in 3 minutes, because that's got to be pretty tough. But you have to suspend disbelief, I suppose. I mean, it is a James Bond movie, or a superhero movie in a way too. But when he finds Madeline Swan, I'm just like, it was, I don't know. It's just like, how did you evolve? There's no way you could have searched that just by screaming. She had a mouth gag on. She was tied up. Like I said, I was kind of disappointed with that. So, I can understand what people say about that. Let's see what else here. I know we're running short on time here. When the building's about to explode, another part I did like from Blofeld is like this line that he had. He's like, "Goodbye, James Bond." And then, when he's hovering on the chopper with his men, and then Bond's like kind of looking at him, and he thinks that the building's about to explode with James Bond in it. It ends up not being that. It ends up being the boat actually does, it does escape at the very bottom of the building. They're able to jump stories down and magically into the net. They are able to make it into the boat just in time before the building is demolished. Now they're chasing the chopper down I guess it's down the river, down the bay, whatever you want to call it. And they're in London again, and they get up by the Westminster Bridge. And here's another thing, once again about Bond's marksmanship skills. He's able to just shoot a pistol at a helicopter. Who knows how high that is? That's got to be at least at least a couple 100 feet up in the air. Who knows? So, and he's just doing this from a boat, and he pulls out the Walther PPK, and then he's about to hit his target because we saw that in the trailer anyway. We would think anyway. So he pulls out the Walther, and then he takes a deep breath, and he made that shot count, and he ends up shooting the chopper, and then the chopper goes down, and I'm like, maybe that could work. I don't know, possibly. So it ends up being the chopper ends up going down, and they do they crash on the Westminster Bridge, and then everybody, C, Moneypenny, they're all able to, and Tanner, they're all able to show up at the bridge. Madeline and him make it up to the boat. They dock, and Bond runs up, and Blofeld's entire crew on the helicopter dies, and Bond walks nice and slowly because now Blofeld's injured. There, you can actually see practically he's bleeding on his legs, like his leg was pretty badly injured when he was in the helicopter crash. And then Bond walks up to him nice and slowly. He's pointing the Walther at him, and Blofeld's like, "Finish it. Go ahead, finish it." And it's like he wants Bond to do this, and then Bond just like he stops, and then he releases the magazine and he uncocks the gun, and he's like, "Out of bullets." And they're like, "Okay, so now you're going back to what M had told C, saying, license to kill is also a license not to kill." I really, really like that, because I was worried. I'm like, well, we haven't had Blofeld back in so long, and if you were to kill him, it would just be, I don't know, you're keeping the door open for possibilities that could be out there, and I'll talk about that in a moment, too. But normally, I mean, we've seen him kill the bad guy. I mean, we've seen him kill Silva, because he was about to kill M there. But this time, he decided to make the choice, saying, "You know what? I'm not going to kill them." He didn't even kill Dominic Green, actually. The more I think about it in Quantum of Solace, things like that. So I really like that. And he's like, his quote in there, "I've got something better to do." And, then he does the gun throw, then he gets the girl. So this is kind of new territory for Daniel Craig's James Bond. And we're like, that has like the happier kind of music fading in by Thomas Newman. And then, Blofeld ends up getting caught. M detains him, saying under the, under Majesty's Act, from 2001, detaining you, something along those lines. And then it fades out, but not officially yet. Now we're back in, Q's lab, and then we hear the elevator come down as he's working on his laptop, and he's sipping his Earl Grey tea, and then he's like, "Bond, what are you doing? I thought you had gone." And he's like, "Good morning, Q. I did." And he's like, "I just need one more thing." And what does it end up being? The DB5. Yeah, there's that fist bump again. Yep, the DB5 makes its return. And this time Bond has a passenger in there. Yes, it is Madeline Swan in there with him. And this is a great classic Bond moment. It's almost reminiscent to me of when Sean Connery would get the Bond girl at the very end, when he would be, whether he was in the life raft with Honey Rider, or Domino. Actually, it was the boat with Honey Rider, the life raft with Domino. Things like that. I'm just like, okay, this is a good throwback here also. And it's nice because we haven't officially seen Daniel Craig ever get the girl. And because obviously Blofeld was responsible for that. But now it's like, okay, now we're in a totally different, aspect of the Daniel Craig franchise. Now it's like, okay, he didn't kill the bad guy. He got the Bond girl, and he's walking away from this. So it's like, as the credits go, and then it does the typical "the name's Bond, James Bond," theme arranged by David Arnold and Thomas Newman, and which I love, by the way. And then it fades to the credits. So it's like, oh, well, we're in uncharted territory here. So what does that mean? Did James Bond finally walk away from this? Is this the last showing of Daniel Craig? I don't know. We don't know yet. And we've talked about this so many times on this podcast. So let me give a couple tidbits as we wrap this up here. Some more positives about the movie. Like I said, the cinematography was still great. The editing that was done by Lee Pace, I think he did a great job. There was nothing. He only showed you what we needed to. We didn't need to show a guy. We didn't need to show Bond, getting into the airplane and the plane chase in Austria. We didn't need any. I like that. how the car chases and all the scenes were edited. I love that. The score, excellent score once again by Thomas Newman. I loved his arrangements. Yes, he did bring back music that was used in Skyfall, but I think he just added on because he had set up themes in there. Kind of like how I would be compared to, say, Hans Zimmer, how he set up themes in like the Dark Knight trilogy, and he reused them, but he also added new music to it also. So once again, love that. What would I have liked to have seen? What would I like to go from here? I know what I would like to see from here. If I haven't talked about it, I'd like to see them do the true interpretation in a way of You Only Live Twice. I'd like to see him at the very beginning. When I say him, I'm talking about James Bond with Madeline Swan. They're getting married, but Blofeld has been broken out of prison by somebody, maybe Mr. Hinks, and then they go and they kill Madeline Swan. I know it's it's just how the book was in a way, or I'm comparing it to Her Majesty's Secret Service in a way too. I would love to see that. I truly would. I just think that, like I said, overall, when I get my ratings for a movie, I do it out of a 5-star rating. So I would say that, out of a 5-star, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst, I will say this is easily a 4, I'll give it a 4.5 because I really did enjoy it. Those negatives I said about the torture sequence, about, Skyfall being connected with Spectre, I can get past that. I truly can. So, overall, this was a very entertaining, very fun Bond movie. I remember when I saw the ratings, I'm like, well, it's not as good rated as Casino Royale. It's not as good rated as, say, Skyfall. I'm like, I'm getting kind of worried here. But honestly, there's nothing to be worried about. This is a great Bond movie. This is an excellent Bond movie. As a matter of fact, it's not perfect. Absolutely not. Like I said, you could tell by the little comments I had about that. But overall, I think this is one that's going to hold up very, very well. I think when we go back in 10 years, assuming I'm still doing this for 10 years, I think it's going to be one of those that just holds up very, very well. The Easter eggs are in there that are very good. The story, it could have been improved. I know the third act they had problems with, that where they thought about killing Blofeld, they decided not to. I like that they didn't, honestly. So, biggest thing is, what do you guys think about this movie? Let me know. Comment in social media at Batman vs. Bond. Let me know what you have to think. Comment on this YouTube video. Let me know what you think. So, that wraps it up for this episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. Please subscribe on iTunes and rate it 5 stars and leave a nice little review. Yeah, no versus this week or birthdays. I'm sorry, guys. It was my birthday anyway. I deserved a day off, right? So follow me on the various social media networks, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Batman vs. Bond. Find this show on the BS Podcast Network, and be sure to check out all the other great programming on there, including Pure BS Podcast, Science Fiction Podcast, and Horribly Awkward Podcast. Like James Bond, I will return. Until next time, I'm Brian Thomas. Guys, thanks for listening and have a great week. Bye-bye.